Namaste nerds, this is Navinad, the Budget Pub Stomper, and today we're going to be talking about Graa Tia Scion Reborn. I'm sure I nailed that name. I have no idea about Final Fantasy, pronunciations, lore, any of it. But this is a commander that I think a lot of you, or there's definitely going to be a swath of you, they're going to be very interested in this commander, this deck, this build, and the way that I kind of chose to go about it. So this is a little bit off of my typical beaten path. I mean, this is a budget competitive $100 deck, but it's not my usual layered combo soup kind of a build. This is a hard control deck, but this is going to be a hard control deck that is going to be very much focused on winning not through combos, but actually through piling on massive amounts of damage, way more efficiently than any deck has any real right to be able to do in Commander, let alone at $100. So let's talk about the Commander a bit, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the philosophy behind the deck, because it might not be totally obvious how a beat-down deck or a damage-first deck, a deck that's using damage as its main or really only win condition, how that might line up with the idea of building a super hard control deck. And this is a super hard control deck. So let's read the commander here. This is I already tried to say it once. I'm not going to embarrass myself a second time. I mean, I'm sure I nailed it the first time, so there's no need to do it a second. This is, let's go for it. Graa Tia Scion Reborn. This is a reborn Scion, of all things. It's Esper colors, and it is Esper cast cost. A blue, a white, and a black will get you this 2/3 lifelink, which is kind of relevant in this deck, or I think it might be. With this, one of these weird keyword, not keyword, kind of keyword abilities, throw wide the gates. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay X life, where X is that creature's mana value. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token and put X +1/+1 counters on it. Do this only once each turn. Okay, so this is going to be the entire win condition. We're going to be able to play a super hard control package because we don't have to fill the deck with 2 and 3 part combos or combo assemblers plus our multiple combo pieces and backup win conditions or any of that. We're wide open for deck slots to use to control the game because we've got essentially our entire win package in the command zone. I mean, we've got some things like Comball, Console of Allocations, and some other ways to get damage through. But our real win condition is just this one card in the command zone. Now there's another guy. I think it's called Ren or Vren. I think it's the Rat Commander in Dimir. That I know for sure is an effective $100 budget competitive build because I saw results where it was winning. What was it? It was in the $500 Brazilian. No. It was in the $100 leagues. I had a guy that was giving me data from a couple of different leagues that were in the same sphere, like $100 budget builds. I think in their exact meta, they were not counting the commander, but that usually doesn't matter very much. Bottom line, $100, that Vren, that had a very similar feel to it, which the decks that were doing the best were just using the guy that makes rats as the win condition. Maybe I should bring that up. It would fit in this deck. That would have been actually an interesting addition. Vren the Relentless? I don't think that's it. We'll see. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. That is Vren the Relentless apparently is not. Oh, I put it in the considering. Okay, I'm on considering mode. Because that's another thing I wanted to mention about this deck. That is the guy. Is that I want you to take actually open up the considering list when you're going through this deck, or if you're building it for yourself. Look at these cards and literally consider these cards. Then when you're playtesting the deck, if there are cards in my list that are underperforming for you, I highly recommend that you start slotting some of these cards in. This coat of arms is so good in this deck. I tried really hard to find a slot for it, but I found while I do have some pieces that are like $4, $5, $6 in the deck, and they were like there's some of the pieces that actually make the deck work. So it wasn't obvious to me if I should be cutting some of the bigger pieces to get the coat of arms in, but I think that might be a way to go. Then you'd have to put tutors in, though, I figure. So I don't know, but coat of arms would be massive in this deck. I just don't quite know if it's $15 massive. Some of these other guys, depending on, well, look at these cards, consider them for your deck. If you build this deck, you might just straight away put them in, or you might just have them in the back of your mind as cards to slot in or try if other things that I have in the list now are not working that well. This guy right here, Vryn the Relentless, is a 4-mana 3/4, only Dimir colors, and it says if a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. At the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 black rat creature tokens. With this, creature gets +1 for each other rat you control, where X is the number of creatures your opponents controlled that were exiled this turn. So basically, this was a Dimir kind of version of the same thing, where it was really this deck wants to be like Vryn as the commander wants to be creature removal deck, and you're going to be wiping out all of your creature or your opponent's creatures, sending them to exile, which does work as a good stacks piece in a lot of situations against a lot of decks. Not all decks, but a lot of decks. And you could definitely slot this in. I'm going to leave this in the considering pile, actually. But what I thought this new commander from Final Fantasy was basically, I think, a better version of Vryn. And if Vryn was getting results, I think we can get results with Graa Tia Scion Reborn. Okay, so whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay X life and make a 1/1 token with +X, where X is that non-creature spell's converted mana cost. But you can only do that once every turn. In my gold fishing, that tends to be enough times per turn. And that's per any turn. And so a lot of what we want to do is be playing at instant speed. And then we also don't want to dedicate a lot of slots to creatures. Although we are a beatdown deck, and so the creatures are not like directly in opposition to what we're trying to do, they're just not proccing the commander. So we want to only choose the ones that are the very most important to our plan, or just the most powerful, or just best for the deck. And I think these 9 are the 9 that I would go with, at least for starts. We're going to be a staxy kind of a control deck. I think that erring on the side of non-creature stacks seems to make a little bit more sense. So we've got Blind Obedience and Deafening Silence. We've got, were there any, I don't know if I ended up on any of the artifact stacks. I guess Disruptor Flute. I didn't do Rule of Law, although you could do. And actually, you could take Archon of Emeria out and just do a 1-for-1 change with just straight up Rule of Law. I kind of like the bonus ability that each player, or that non-basic lands your opponents control ETB tapped. I think that just kind of broke the tie for me. Because otherwise, this and Rule of Law are going to be, in fact, like kind of the same card in this deck. Plus, our Archon of Emeria is a flyer. But, either way, you could do it either way. You could have the Archon of Emeria and or the Rule of Law. But what we want to do is we want to use effects that are going to stax out our opponent's unfair strategies or otherwise hamper and slow them down. And then we want creatures that are going to be doling out a lot of damage, giving us a lot of value, and maybe padding our life total. So Archivist of Ogma is down to $3.10. This is a fantastic CDH draw engine. I think it's not going to be as good in budget competitive, but I think it's going to draw plenty of cards. It's not going to draw as many cards as it will in CDH, but if you play this against like a swath of my decks and the people that play in my, or that are in my Discord, you're going to proc this guy plenty. But the other thing is it plays at instant speed, which is important to the deck, and it does gain life for us. And since we're going to be trading our life total off for our hero tokens. Getting that little extra bit of incidental life gain on as many little creatures as we could, I felt was kind of important. I didn't want to dedicate a lot of cards to just straight up life gain. Most of the time when you play life gain in a commander deck, especially in a competitive environment, those cards end up being virtually dead. I don't think so. There's one exception I made in this deck. I've got a finisher exsanguinate, which I've preached this to so people are going to look at this card in my deck and they're going to think, dude, you've told me to take that out of my deck a billion times because of how bad it is. Why are you playing it in this deck? And there's a few reasons for that. Number one, what I just said about the life total thing. Number two, this is going to scale exactly equal to the amount of mana that we have, which is pretty big, right? So if we happen to have 10 mana, then we can make a 9/9 hero by casting the exsanguinate, which is going to cost us 9 life. But then it's going to replenish us, what did I say, if x equals 7, it's going to give us 21 life. So where the life loss that we're doling out to our opponents usually is not that big of a deal. It's because if you get your opponents down to 12, 13, 14 life, who cares if you're going to combo kill them anyway? Or if you have 20 more life than everybody else in the game and then you lose to a combo, who cares? But with this deck actively looking to murder people by inflicting damage, this could very often, I think, be the death blow. This could be like, I've been beating my opponents down with my big token creatures, my armada, for 6 or 7 turns, and now everybody's down to 8 life, so I just need to get to 10 mana and shoot this through and win the game. Again, it also makes a big creature for us, and it makes a creature as big as we could hope to make at any point in the game. It scales with us, and it replenishes the life that we're losing. And in this deck, it's not dead because we are literally trying to murder our opponents through damage. And it's not just going to be the huge army of creature tokens that we're making, but it's going to mainly be that. But we also have evasive threats, and we also have guys like this guy, Comball. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So that's doing more of what we want to do, damaging our opponents, padding our life total. Italian, kind of the same thing. When you play this, you choose a number. Probably you choose something like 2. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player loses 2 life. You draw a card. We're trying to go late. We're trying to drag this game out, so we need value engines. Also, this guy can get through for 3 damage every turn, and it's going to be smoking people for 2 every time they cast a spell that is anything to do with the number you choose, and I'm going to recommend you choose the number 2. Usually, the number 2 is the right number. If you just look at let's just go through here. It's whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness, right? Okay, so just look at our guy here. We've got if somebody selected 2 against our deck, this guy is a 2/3, so they draw a card off of this. Archivist of Ogma has 2s and spades. You draw off Archivist, you draw off Archon, you draw off Dothy, you draw off Comball, off Lotho, off Malevolent, off Skyclave, off Suture Priest, off Exsanguinate. I'm not sure how that works. Probably not. This would not be a 2-mana spell on the stack unless it was cast for 0, I think. Off this card, off this, and this, and this, and this. No, not that. You get the idea. This, and this, and this, and this. And all the mana rocks, and definitely set it at 2. 2's the right number, especially in budget competitive. So we've got value engines, and we've got ways to pad our life total, ways to get extra damage through, and Talion does all of those things in one card, well justifying the $4 slot, even though if we could pull just a few of these $4 or $5 cards out, we could fit that coat of arms in. So that would be the other thing to do, is maybe you could cut the Talion, cut the Dothy, and cut maybe Cover of Darkness, and then like one other thing, and you could make room for that. You could make room for the coat of arms. But this is the configuration I like right now. Italian's really good. Dalthy's really good. I mean, we'd be cutting really good cards. Or you'd have to be cutting the cards that are actually proccing your guy real nasty, like your $5 misdirection, which is a free spell that's going to make a 6/6. Or Snuff Out. That's another one of the $5 things. But again, free spell that's going to make a 5/5. So yeah, like if you could get that coat of arms in it, it would be sick, and there's ways to consider it, but this is the build as I landed on it, and I'm sticking to it, although hedging my bet by leaving all these cards in the considering. So let's talk about, so we've kind of already talked a little bit about how we're going to be trying to cheat, but I want to talk more explicitly about how we're going to cheat. And because we're playing all these, it's a competitive slanted deck, so we're going to be casting a bunch of 1 and 2 mana spells, but I don't want to be flooding the board with like 2/2s, right? That's not what we're trying to do with this deck. What we're going to be doing with the deck is we're going to be piling on fatties. Well, how are we going to do that while keeping an efficient curve? Well, our mana curve is going to look like shit on paper, but it's going to be because we're using some of the kinds of effects I was just talking about. And I've really put a lot of thought and effort into choosing the right ones. And I went deep in that. I did a Scryfall search. I did 2.5 Scryfall searches, we'll say, and looked through all of the other decks that other players were building, which I don't often do. I mean, I was even going down to the Graa lists that were in power level 3 and 4 to see if there were things I was missing. And I want to shout out one deck in particular. There's a guy. This is the only version of the deck that I actually saw things and I was like, yep, that's what I'm missing. And it was more than one. I mean, there were a few things. And they basically were replacements for coat of arms. So I told this guy in his comments, I made a comment to this guy or gal that was a fantastically built deck, and that I'm going to steal some of the ideas out of it, and that I would shout this person out. So I'm shouting this person out, Malorian, and this deck is just called Graa, and they did a fantastic job with this build. It's $1,000, but I was still able to steal some tech, and just want to make sure I gave that person that person the kudos I promised. So mainly we're a control deck. We are going to be casting a lot of destroy target this, bounce target that, counter this thing, counter that thing, make this thing wish it had never happened. But then also, since we are going to be a grindy control deck that's a real attrition based deck, we're going to have to draw cards. And so we've got some card draw spells, dig through time, and so these delve spells, man, these are where it's at for this in this deck. We're an instant speed deck. We want to play at instant speed, so we're leaving our mana open, and we'd like to be able to cast spells on every player's turn, so we can like we cast a whatever on our turn and make a 3/3 or something. We go to the next player's turn, and we snap something important on their turn, which untaps our lands, but puts a 3/3 creature into play for us, but leaves us with still mana open, so we don't have to go shields down. Then we go to the next player's turn, and we snuff out, and we make a 5/5, still without going shields down, without having to tap our mana out. And then maybe on the very last player's turn, we can cast our Mana Leak or Vanishing Verse and actually spend our mana, make another 3/3, and then maybe we come to our turn and we just keep going that way. But in order to keep doing that, we're going to have to be drawing cards, right? Do I want to talk about the engines first? Usually I'd be talking about the combos, but we're not really playing combos. Let's talk about the big fat payoffs, the big fat mana value cards, and the cards that are going to enable us to put big fatties into play without going shields down. This is one at the top here that I stole from the player the brewer that I just called out. Invasion of Segovia. I thought this was kind of brilliant. So it's a 3 mana spell. it's going to give us a 4/4. So when we cast this for 3 mana, it's not just blank. It's going to give us 2 1/1s, which is almost nothing, right? But these almost nothing 1/1s are also, because of our commander, going to come into play, because this is a non-creature spell, with another 1/1 that gets 3 +1/+1. So we're going to get a 4/4 and 2 1/1s. So just at the base rate of just casting this spell on its own with our commander in play, we're paying 3 mana and we're putting 6 power into play across 3 bodies. But the main draw to the card is this has 4 of whatever, I don't know what that's called, defense points, whatever. We have to hit this thing for 4, which should be absolutely no problem at all. That's what our deck is designed to do, is to beat people. So we're going to want to flip this battle immediately. Once we flip this battle, and we can actually flip it with the amount of power that we're putting into play by casting it, that will be even if we're not going to have haste, so we're not going to be able to, let me think about this. So when it comes back to our turn, we'll be able to flip this thing just with the creatures that we got for casting it. So it doesn't really feel like much of a loss, if you know what I mean. And when we flip it, it says non-creature spells you cast have Convoke. That's nasty. In this deck, that's nasty. So that means all of our spells are going to be free or something like free. All of our non-creature spells, which is almost the entire deck, we're only playing 9 creatures. Everything's got Convoke. And we're putting creatures into play, and some of them are going to be little dinky guys. And when we cast this, we're putting 3 bodies into play just for casting this siege, this battle. So just off of that, it's almost like we're going to have 3 additional mana. You get the idea. We're going to have 3 bodies to Convoke, which means that when we... so we're going to be casting things like Preordain, filling our graveyard. We're going to be countering and bouncing and removing things. All the while, we will be making 2/2s and 3/3s and kind of smaller guys that are going to allow us to Convoke cast our bigger things once we flip this battle. And that's just one example. What's another piece of tech I borrowed from Homeboy over there? The Lethal Scheme. I hadn't thought of this one. He had like 3 versions of this. I didn't want to go quite that deep, but I think they're great in the deck. I think this is the best one of them. So this is a 4 mana spell, allegedly. But it's got Convoke. Your creatures can help cast the spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of that creature's color. So we can tap 2 black creatures and 2 colorless creatures, or 2 black mana. You get the idea. And it's not just going to Convoke. It does Convoke, but it also says that each creature that convoked Lethal Schemes connives. And so that means you're going to draw a card and discard a card for each creature that you use to help you cast this spell. So this is just like the ultimate value proposition, right? We're going to get to cast it for free. We're going to put a 5/5 into play. We're going to be using free creatures to do it. And then for each creature that we tapped in order to do it, we're going to draw a card and discard a card. And for every time we discard a non-land card, we're going to put a +1/+1 counter on the creature that convoked it. That's just like crazy amounts of value. This was a really good ad, and I'm glad that I saw it in the guy's deck. And we're doing more things like that. Contagion. This is a 5 mana pitch spell. In budget competitive, you're going to see dorks all over the place. Mono green, green X, or even just like decks like our own could get hurt pretty bad. Like if we've got our Malevolent Hermit and our Lotho out and somebody casts a Contagion, they can murder both of those. Or you take out one person's dork and then you take out one person's Lotho. Contagion's a good spell, and in this deck it's never been better than in exactly this deck. And if we've got if we've got this thing in play and flipped, then we don't necessarily even have to pitch a spell for Contagion. We can tap a bunch of dudes, power those dudes up, loot through our deck, and make a 6/6 for our contagion while taking out 2 things, or sometimes you have to pile the 2 contagion tokens, the neg counters, on the same thing to murder it, but a lot of times it's just going to be a well, you're going to kill 2 things with it. We've got Commandeer, 7 mana. This is going to make an 8/8. We've got Dig Through Time. The delve spells are amazing here. Dig Through Time, you're using things like Lethal Schemes and Preordain and the counter spells, of course, but the cantrips. You're going to be impulsing, and you're going to be, what are some of the cantrips? We've got Consider, and we've got, what's the opt? We've got cantrips, we've got interaction, tons of each, 29 instants, 6 sorceries. We're going to be putting things in the graveyard so that it's not going to be a big problem to come up with the delve fuel. We're not really using our graveyard for anything other than delve. So when we cast this Dig Through Time, we're going to make a 9/9 hero. That's pretty crazy. And a lot of times we're going to be doing that for 2 blue mana. Like blue, and you're going to get look at the top 7 cards of your deck, find the best 2, put them in your hand, and then you're going to make a 9/9 hero. That's nasty, right, for 2 blue? And maybe you'll pay a little bit more than that some of the time. So things like this. This is the heart and soul of the deck. Lethal Schemes. Dig Through Time. Commandeer. This is a pitch spell. Contagion. Snuff Out. If you control a swamp, and you will, pay 4 life rather than its mana cost, and now for free, you just destroyed a creature and made a 5/5. So these are the spells that make the deck work. These big overcosted spells with big effects that don't actually cost their printed mana value. That's the core. Temporal Trespass may be chief amongst them. This is 11. So just with this one spell, yeah, we take an extra turn, which is crazy, right? That's a big effect. But aside from that, we're going to put a 12/12 hero. So the prospect of murdering people with Beatdown becomes pretty real when you're staxing out the board and you're playing a bunch of control and you're able to basically cheat these enormous monster heroes into play with these Lethal Schemes, Contagion, Commandeer, Dig Through Time, Temporal Trespass, Treasure Cruise is good for a 9/9. Exsanguinate's not the same, but it's kind of like, I don't know, feels a little bit similar because it's going to get you exactly how much mana you actually have as a hero +1. Then we've got Misdirection, Snap, a bunch of free, not free spells, right? Another one that I'm kind of proud of finding is Mystical Dispute. Very often when you cast this, it's going to be 1 mana. You're going to get this discount. But this is a 3 mana value spell. So a 3 mana value spell is going to be good for a 4/4. I think that probably I might just want to goldfish this deck. You may just need to see this for yourself to appreciate just how fast you can spam like insane amounts of power and toughness with this deck the way I've got it configured. So while we're controlling the board, we are at the same time, we're moving our own game plan farther and farther ahead by using the very cards that we're using to control the board for defense to also be our only offense. And so never has it been more true that a good, how does that go? The best defense is a good offense. That's it. Force of Despair, same kind of a thing. You can destroy all creatures that enter this turn. It's an instant. I hate this version, but this is the least expensive version. But let's just switch the printing so we can read the damn thing. Or maybe so you recognize it. And then I lose it immediately. Force of Despair right here. So this can just be 3 mana instant speed. Destroy all creatures that ETB'd this turn. Or, if it's not your turn, you can exile a black card from your hand instead of paying its mana cost. So that is another one of these free, not free spells. Sometimes, yeah, you're going to take a little bit of a card. It's not really card, it's kind of card disadvantage because you're going to have to pitch a thing. But sometimes when you pitch the thing, when you pitch the thing to cast this, you're killing one of their creatures and you're making a creature of your own. So you kind of go a little neutral on it. It depends on how exactly you look at it. But then also, this doesn't just kill one creature. If your opponents are trying to win the game with combo, where they're like, okay, I'm going to make 1 billion Kiki-Jiki tokens, or I'm going to make a billion tokens with my Kiki-Jiki. They move to combat, you cast Force of Despair, and you just destroyed 1 billion creatures. Or, even, so any of those types of combos. It can stop all kinds of infinite loops like that. Dual Caster Mage Twin Flame, Narameha with whatever she's doing, with some of the things she does. It's just kind of like almost like a free counter spell for a creature. In a way, you could think of it that way. Like at the floor. That's like the floor of the card. It's like counter target creature. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to use these undercosted... and Unwind is another good example. It's kind of like Snap in that we want to be making creatures, defending ourselves, but we don't want to be tapping out, because we want to be ideally doing this every turn, on every opponent's turn. We want to be doing a thing, or at least we want to get to the point in the game eventually where we can do that. But that's going to mean we're going to need some kind of an engine in play. So that's why I did spend a bit of the budget on these engines, but most of the engines are going to be performing multiple duties. But Unwind, same kind of thing. I can counter-target non-creature spell, put a 4/4 into play, and untap my lands, so I'm still shields up, ready to go, and I'm ready to spit out more tokens on every opponent's turn. What are some other examples? Let's talk about the value engines, actually. I feel like I'm getting kind of hung up in going later than I anticipated. Let's talk about the engines. So if we're going to be trying to do some 1-for-1 type removal, and sometimes even worse than that or different than that, but we're going to be spending a lot of our cards, I guess is the point, to try to stay in these games and to get into the late game and do this attrition-y thing, well, we better have singular cards that can stop multiple cards. And that would be a card like Archon of Emeria. This would affect all of our opponents, and it will stop any of our opponents from comboing, kind of by definition, because you have to cast at least 2 things usually. At some point you have to cast at least 2 things to combo off. Otherwise, it's not a combo, because combo literally is the short term of combination. So you need a combination of cards to combo off, and Archon of Emeria says you cannot do that, at least not in the same turn. And it says that to all of your opponents. And so this is an example of one card that is going to be slowing down multiple opponents. Dauthi Voidwalker, same thing. This is cutting off your opponent's access to their graveyards. So there are budget breach decks out there now. I've built them. I've seen other people building them. Underworld Breach is not as expensive as it used to be, and they keep coming up with ways to use that card that don't require LED or Wheel of Fortune, etc. You get the idea. Brain Freeze, although Brain Freeze isn't that expensive. Anyway, also in the budget sphere, you're going to run into a lot of Protean Hulk. You're going to run into a lot of just reanimation strategies and graveyard strategies in general. Outside of that, Dauthi Voidwalker is a way to just make sure we're getting 3 additional damage through every turn. Oh, also with this flipped version of this card, it also says at the beginning of your end step, untap up to 4 target creatures. So if you've got this out, you could attack with your Dauthi Voidwalker, make sure you're getting your damage, chipping in where you can, and then it will untap it so that if somebody goes to fire off some kind of crazy spell, you can counterspell it and then crack your Dauthi Voidwalker to cast that thing for free. Dauthi Voidwalker is not just a rest in peace, although it is like a rest in peace. It also allows you to tap and sacrifice the creature to choose one of the things you exiled and play it without paying its mana cost. Card's broken. For $474, this in a staxy attrition-based deck that exactly cares about winning through damage. I think this has to be in the deck, so $4.74, we're just going to swallow that one. So value engines, we need them. Archivist, in a way, Dothy. Italian for sure. Lotho's a value engine, but it's not the kind of value engine I'm talking about at the moment. Then cards that are going to refill our hand, like Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise, become very important in this deck. I decided to put in Shurikai Genesis Engine. I could see in this deck, this may be the only deck that you'll ever crew the damn thing and smack somebody for 8 with it, because we are trying to murder people with fatties. But for the most part, this is just going to be a value engine. You're trading 1 for 1 or 2 for 2, or however you want to look at it. You're having to blow a lot of your resources to drag the game out. So you're going to need ways to refill your hand. Shurikai Genesis Engine not only does that, but it also helps us to fuel our graveyard. And we are playing 3 delve spells. And I don't want to play more than 3 delve spells. I mean, I do in the deck. I want to jam all the delve spells. But you can only play so many before they start working against each other, right? So yeah, Shurikai Genesis Engine is another example of a value engine for this deck that works real well here. Idol of Oblivion. It's just tap it, draw a card. I mean, effectively, that's what it is. If you've got your commander out, you will be making... you can only do this once per turn rotation, right? Tap to draw a card. And it says activate only if you've created a token this turn. We'll just wait until whatever turn it is that you're creating a token, because you're going to create a token on somebody's turn, whether it's yours or somebody else's, in almost every turn rotation from like turn 4 or 5 on. Or if something's gone terribly wrong and you've got bigger problems than the fact that your Idol of Oblivion isn't working. I guess worst case scenario, you can put 8 mana into it, tap it, sacrifice it, make a 10/10 out of it. We're looking to strike for lethal. Now, one of the things I was worried about, really from the point where I realized I wasn't going to be able to afford the coat of arms, and even if I could, I wouldn't be able to find it, because tutors are expensive, at least ones that will allow us to find just a 5 mana artifact. So we can't do this, but we can still use cards like Cover of Darkness. So we cast our Cover of Darkness, we name hero. Now, all of our heroes can only be blocked by artifact creatures and black creatures. And you may run into some black creatures, but you've also got the entire white and black suite of removal. And the blue bounce spells. You'll be able to clear the path. If you do happen to have 1 or 2 players that have a good chunk of black creatures in play, shouldn't be a real big deal. You've got, Vanishing Verse, Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, Drown in the Lock. You've got tons and tons of ways to murder creatures. Tons and tons and tons. And tons of ways to do damage, and tons of ways to control the board in general. Lethal Schemes doesn't care if your opponent's creatures are black. Contagion doesn't care. Commandeer doesn't care. That can be your creature. Commandeer's nasty, guys. So then we've also got, this is one that I borrowed from the same friend that I shouted out earlier in the video. Thought this was a really good idea in the deck. This is Takasio. Apparently, I don't know how to pronounce magic cards. But however you say that's welcome. For 3 mana, we're going to put a 4/4 hero in play. And it says whenever 1 or more creatures you control with mana value 3 or less enter, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Now, most decks, if they play this, they're going to draw 1 card per turn cycle off of it. That's not going to be the case in this deck. This is like a legit value engine in our deck. There should be turn cycles where you're drawing 4 cards off of this, legitimately. Like this is going to be very good in this deck. But it's not a way to win the game, right? But it's one of the engines, right? Also, Blind Obedience, effects like Blind Obedience, are going to be extra good in this deck because, well, they're going to help us pad our life total. Our opponents are going to be slowed down by their artifacts coming into play tapped, but also the creatures that they have coming into play tapped. It's usually the least relevant part of the card, but in budget competitive, you run into a lot of Dualcaster Mage, Twin Flame, and Kiki Jiki combos. This shuts those off, and when we're trying to kill our opponents by beating them to death with big-ass heroes, this is going to stop our opponents from blocking, or blocking effectively. Their chump blocker that they just played, it's going to ETB tapped, which is going to make it easier for us to get our good big swings in. But the number one, like one-for-one swap in, swap out, change, switch up from Coat of Arms has got to be True Conviction. Look, Coat of Arms is 5 mana. This is only 6. Yes, it's white, 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 which does kind of suck. But by the time you're getting to 6 mana, and you're probably not going to drop this the second you can go to 6 mana, you're going to want to hold mana up. And you're not necessarily going to need to hold white mana up. Usually, blue mana is the most important mana to hold up. And by the time we're ready to cast this thing and try to, murder everybody, like actually put the game away, probably we've got things like, ways to cast spells with Convoke, or just spells that have Convoke, or free pitch spells. White removal, blue is of course going to be, the best removal, but it's also the best because it's efficient, which means it's really easy or, possible to play early game. By the time we get to the point in the game where we're casting our True Conviction, we ought to be able to have some of these other effects going. This thing going so we can Convoke cast everything, or value engines going so we should be able to draw some of our other things where we don't necessarily need to hold up exactly white mana. Guess that's the point, is by the time we can cast this and hold up a couple of mana, we ought to be able to skirt around the fact that maybe we've only got 3 white, or maybe we'll just have more than 3 white. We've got a good mana base. We really do. We're playing all of the must-play mana rocks. But on top of that, we've got Springleaf Drum. What else? I thought we had some specific mana fixing things. What am I thinking of? The treasure producers. Lotho. Anyway, we'll get there. We've got 7 basic basic planes. We've got more basic planes than any other basic in the deck, I think. Incorrect. I lied. But we've got a good land base. We've got good mana. I don't think the white is going to be. It's definitely not a deal breaker. And it says in our deck, in the context of our deck, by the time we're playing this, maybe it's like turn 8. And we've been able to grind and hang in there, and we've probably amassed a board of God, who knows, on turn 8. We could literally have 50 power, I think would be reasonable in play. But now, when we drop this, we're going to make another 7 power, and all of our creatures are going to have double strike and lifelink. So the lifelink is not irrelevant in this deck. We've already talked about why it's not. But double strike, when we're dropping these nasty, 8/8s because we cast a Commandeer, 9/9s from a dig through time. So our dig through time token, when we have our True Conviction in play, is going to swing for 18 damage lifelink, and 9 of that will be first strike damage. So that's basically the deck. I don't know that we've got enough time to do gold fishing. I might do it in another video. I almost want to just look at some hands. I'm really impressed with the way this turned out, and I think you will be too. I think the deck just straight up works. I'm going to keep this up so I know how much time I'm wasting. No. What was this? It doesn't show the turn count. How do I start this over? I'm panicking a little bit. Okay, get this out of my way. Up here. All right. This is unfortunately, I mean, one land would make this a great keep. We'll go to our second 7. Deck don't make a liar out of me. I would keep this. I would keep this. Yeah. So we draw for turn. Heliod's Intervention is another. It's a spell that is going to scale with the game. We can dump a ton of mana into it to make a big hero. Destroy multiple cards with one card while we're making a big hero. Also, the target player gains twice action. I don't know. We cast this thing. Let's see, white. Hopefully white. White. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6.